An Island of Our Own by J. Wilburn. The couple sat in the wooden lifeboat with no life in sight for miles. The horizon was one continuous curve around them with lots of visibility but nothing to see. Clouds protected them from the punishing sun a little, but they soon blew westward and left the couple cooking on the low benches across from each other. Let's say again. All right. Okay, this did not go the way I planned, she said. He laughed a little, but it hurt his throat, and there was nothing to drink except salt water. I don't think this went the way anyone planned. She turned on her seat and scanned the world around them again. Seeing nothing new, she sighed and bowed her head again. Even with the heat, he had convinced her they should wear their jackets up over their heads to avoid sunstroke. She put up no argument, but he could tell she was unhappy. Of course she was. They had every reason to be. They were stranded in the middle of the ocean. If I see anything, I'll let you know, he said. Did I put too much of a space in there? No, I didn't. What? If anything comes into sight, I'll tell you. You don't have to keep looking around. Right, sure, she said. I was kidding. It was a joke. Not a good one. And maybe not the right time. She shrugged. No, I get it. It was funny. I'm just too tired to put much of anything into laughing. You can lay down and rest. We should probably be doing that anyway. I can't sleep anymore. If I do, I'll be up all night. One of us should be up at night, watching for lights. Maybe rescue will come. What do you mean, maybe? He shook his head. No, I mean, we will be rescued. I know we will. I just meant that a ship might come at night. I'm scared in all this water, more scared at night. Then I'll take the night watch. Hold on just a moment. Excuse me. You should get some sleep. You should get some sleep then, she said. He shook his head. I can't sleep anymore. The cloud cover thickened and she dropped the jacket off her head. Let me put a comma there. He was going to tell her they could still get burned even if it was cloudy, but he felt like he was delivering enough bad news, let's say as it was. It started to drizzle, which actually felt nice. It started raining a little harder, and she put her jacket back over her head. The wind picked up, and waves topped the wooden lifeboat's edge a couple times. The rain and wind grew colder. She moved beside him, and they held one another for warmth. Their clothes had not yet dried. From the storm that took down the ship the previous night. The storm grew more fierce, and they had to use the bucket tied to the nose of the boat to bail out water. The storm and bailing continued through the night. Neither of them slept. Save some of it, she cried out at one point during the miserable night. What? He shouted back. Save some of the fresh water. Don't bail at all. We'll need some to drink. He smiled despite everything. I'm glad I married you. You're brilliant. Don't tease. I'm not in the mood. I'm not teasing. I'm serious. I didn't even think of keeping water. You might have saved our lives. All right. The rain tapered off, but the next day was only brighter than the night by degrees. The boat stayed relatively dry, except for what they saved in the bucket. It grew cold enough for them to see their breath. They had no food. Let's say, to go with their water. Where are we that it's this cold? She asked in puffs of vapor. I don't know. It could be mostly moisture in the air. So I'm imagining being cold? No, it's cold. Hopefully it will pass, and we'll be just as uncomfortably hot as we were yesterday. Her teeth chattered, but she bit down to make them stop. You have a way of seeing the dark lining around a bad situation. He laughed, but it descended into a cough, and he shivered. She held him closer and said, "Lay down with me. The wind might not get us if we're below the edges." But she was wrong. But they held each other in the cold rain anyway. It did get hot again in the following days, and they did miss the cool weather a little. He tried to fashion fishing gear out of rope and other items in the boat. He failed. He tried to grab fish out of the water as they swam by. I think I just hit the caps lock. And failed again. All right. Let's keep moving along here. He almost flipped the boat in one enthusiastic grab. She touched his shoulder, and he stopped trying. They should put food supplies in these boats just in case. She nodded. I think they did. We lost a lot over the side when the pulleys gave way early. I wonder if others on board thought we stole the boat out from under them. She shook her head, but then pressed a fist to her forehead with her eyes closed tight, as if the movement had hurt. I'm not sure anyone else survived to consider it. I thought we were going to flip all the way over when we fell with the boat like that. Lucky us, she said. Do you wish we had gone down with the others instead of going slowly? Now I'll leave it like that. Instead of going slowly like this. She patted his hand. And missed the end of our honeymoon after all we saved for it? He chuckled, but then held his head against the pain. Held his head and throat, against the pain. We might still get rescued. She held him closer despite the heat. We'll be together either way. As the days wore on, they started to wish that they had let the boat fill up with water so they'd have more to drink, even if they risked sinking to do so. All right, let's add some more dialogue here, I think. I keep wondering how close we are to our island destination, he said. His throat had a gravelly undertone that sounded like illness. She shrugged. We might be drifting away from it, for all we know. Nonsense, he said. We paid our tickets. We'll get there. It's only fair. You make a good point, she said. Not a sane one, but a good one. I'll take it. Alright, so we'll continue this along here. Eventually, they laid down in the boat together and stayed there. He woke and noticed it was raining again. Not a lot, but anything would do. He opened his mouth, and one precious drop fell in. It's raining really hard outside in honor of this story. Okay. He actually choked on it when it hit the back of his throat. His throat hurt worse than before. He laughed and tasted blood. Then that made his empty stomach stir. He tried to get up, but couldn't seem to move. He reached for the bucket, but couldn't get it. "Help me," he said. "It's raining. The bucket." She stirred, her eyes open, glazed, but then, let's say glazed and unfocused. 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 Alright, let's spell some words here. But then closed. Then her eyes opened, glazed and unfocused, but then closed slowly. I have her saying, "Stay with me." But let me have her change it to just a little while longer. We need water. Just stay. No, not just stay. Just a little longer. Alright. Eventually the storm worsened and they were tossed about, the boat filled with more salt water than fresh. The bucket actually hit him in the head at one time, and he woke to rain streaming down his face. He smiled at that, cracking the skin over his lips a little. It was all he could manage. The tide moved the heavy lifeboat in sluggish lurches over the next day. Late in the evening, before sundown, they beached upon sand. The tide rolled out and left them sitting fully on land. This was not the island they bought a ticket for. This one was uninhabited. See, this one was uninhabited, and further south out of the shipping lanes. Alright, there we go. Over time, the boards cracked, and what hadn't evaporated, and what water, what water hadn't evaporated, drained out of the bottom. The skeletons held one another in an embrace as the boards splintered. As the boards weathered, splintered, and peeled away from one another. The couple sat upon the dunes further inland. They held one another as the skeletons they used to be rested in the remains of the beached lifeboat. "What do you want to do today?" he asked. She shrugged as they watched another sunrise. "I don't know. We could just sit here a while longer." "We could," he said. "Nothing is stopping us from taking a walk, exploring, playing, or anything else the island has to offer. No, nothing's stopping us. We could swim," he said. She frowned at that and turned her face to the sun. "I don't like that." He put his arm around her and pulled her into his side. She allowed it. "No swimming, then. Do you regret what happened to us? Do you wish we had been rescued or never set sail at all?" All right, let me put a comma there. We're in the home stretch here. "I'm just happy we're together," she said. "Most honeymoons have to end, but we got around that, didn't we?" He laughed, and there wasn't a bit of pain in it. Every day with you is a blessing, he said, with laughter still in his voice. She held him and said, just a little while longer. All right. They stayed together and spent that day watching the sun cross the sky. Tomorrow, they could do anything they liked. All right. Let me add something else. They could do anything they liked as their long honeymoon continued.